Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled to be unveiling some really recent research, kind of hot off the press. And we're going to be diving into a really powerful question that organizations can ask themselves, which is how do we measure what truly matters most? Really in a world where there's expectations and workforces and communities, environmental pressures are rapidly shifting. I think the organizations that truly thrive are really the ones that understand the interconnectedness between worker well-being, environmental sustainability, and organizational performance, and then are able to measure and act on all three of those. So before we get started, I do want to take a moment to ground ourselves in place, and then we'll do our introductions. While I do this, please throw your information in the chat. Just say, say hello, say where you're calling in from. We'd love to hear that. I think we should probably have a pretty big group of people joining us today. So really excited to have some opportunities to connect with you all and for you to network with each other as well. So I just want to acknowledge that I know we're calling in from different places, but I'm calling in from Treaty 6 territory, which is the traditional homelands of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Blackfoot, and Dene people, and the Métis nations. And so we just really honor the generations of the First Nations and Métis people who've really cared for these lands, physically, spiritually, and relationally, long before we got here, and who continue to do so today. And, I know sometimes these acknowledgements seem like just a formality. I want it to be more than that, really an invitation to reflect on what our responsibilities are to the land and people, and the work that we are sharing today, looking at how we can support well-being and sustainability and performance, just I think reminds us of that Indigenous communities have carried for centuries. It's really the health of people, health of the land, and the systems that we build are really inseparable. So as we explore this research, I think we want to do so with humility, recognizing that measuring what matters most means really listening deeply, honoring relationships, and thinking and considering about how our decisions impact future generations as well. And these are responsibilities I think that we all should be called to uphold. And so again, we want today's session to be guided in respect and gratitude and this commitment to learning from those who have stewarded this place since the beginning. So with that, I am really excited to dive into it. Thank you everyone for all of you throwing in your information in the chat. I see people calling in we've got some Winnipeg folks, Toronto, Ontario, Alberta, all over the place. So that's awesome. Toronto, great to see you all. And yeah, and everyone is cold in Winnipeg today. Hey, well, two of the our speakers today are from Winnipeg. I'm in as you said, Treaty 6, Edmonton, Alberta, and it's not too bad, thankfully. Yeah. So I'm just waiting for the cold weather. I'm sure it'll get here soon. All right. So with that, again, over the past year, we've been really on an exciting journey to really explore how employers across Canada and beyond are navigating this navigation. And so our team conducted a comprehensive research study that looked at a cross-sector survey of more than 100 organizations, 110, from small nonprofits to large corporations, just looking at where employers are leading, where they're struggling, and what they wish they could measure more effectively. Then there's also a literature review, which is peer-reviewed, bringing together decades of evidence connecting well-being, environmental stewardship, and operational excellence. And then today, I'm really excited to be sharing with you and unveiling a brand new workplace performance index assessment that's available and free. It's a practical kind of step-by-step tool that's designed to help organizations understand where you are today, identify your gaps, build a roadmap, and then really confidently measure and report progress against all three of these dimensions. And it's also quite flexible. And so really, I think this is really more than a measurement tool. It's really a framework for aligning people, planet, and performance to reduce silos, strengthen strategy, improve clarity, and just really equips leaders to make decisions that can create a meaningful impact. And of course, I would be amiss if I didn't say, of course, none of this would have been possible without our amazing community of experts and practitioners and thought leaders who helped to shape this work. So, a heartfelt thank you goes out to Dr. Sylvie Albert, who is our academic supervisor through this, our advisors that we had, including Deborah Connor, Stephen Merigatroyd, Marion Baton, Alan Smofsky, who I think is here on the call today, Marc-Andre Basilis, Lisa Ross Rodriguez, Michael Green, Christina Leutz, and of course, want to thank My Tax for the in-kind contributions for funding for it, and also so many. And then, of course, the university and the Winnipeg and University of Winnipeg, and of course, the team who I'm going to introduce to you in just a minute here. And there were others as well who contributed feedback through this journey. So I want to thank you all for that. So again, today's session is really about empowerment. It's about giving you some evidence and clarity around the tools that we use to measure what does matter most, so that your organization can thrive in a sustainable and strategic and human way. So again, so I'm so pleased to introduce to you the team today. Not all of us are here, but of course, my name is Victoria Granger. So I am the founder of Wellness Works Canada, and kind of spearheaded this research to get it started through Wellness Works Canada to help organizations. We just saw a big need of where there's a lot of silos. A lot of our practitioners, a lot of our members go into this work and have troubles kind of getting the information that they need, knowing what to measure, all these kinds of things, and just seeing all these silos. And so, yeah, so it's been such a pleasure to be working on this with Dr. Rutimi Oade, who is here with us today. Hi, Rutimi. So Rutimi's a scholar practitioner focused on,
Hi,
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 uh,
good morning, everyone.
good morning. On strategic leadership and organizational performance and technology transfer. Has a doctorate in business administration and leadership and strategy from Golden Gate University, and brings over 15 years of corporate leadership experience. Is also the founder of Honeybrook Investments. He's also an author, a Christian minister, lots of great things. So thank you so much for your work. You're going to hear more from Rotimi in just a little bit. Also, of course, want to introduce to you Rudan or Danny. So hi, Rudanny. So she has done so much great work on this as well. She holds a Master of Management and Data Analytics from the University of Winnipeg, has several years of experience in educational technology and information systems, and specializes in really using data-driven approaches to strengthen organizational decision making and improve technology-enabled environments. And then, of course, Dr. Sylvie isn't here with us today. She's was our academic chair. She was a professor of strategy and leadership and the former dean of business and economics at the University of Winnipeg, and has extensive experience in government consulting, academia, and is a globally recognized researcher and advisor in digital urban innovation, and served on numerous boards and think tanks, and continues to publish a lot of leading work on smart and sustainable cities. So it was a great team that we have working on this together. And so when we think about what we are doing in this work, I think we've noticed that um, the connection between worker well-being and organizational performance and environmental sustainability is often neglected. I think organizations, we all want to pay attention to these things, and oftentimes we do, but sometimes we treat these three different things as separate issues. And well-being might sit with HR, or performance is with operations or finance. Sustainability, it might not actually fit anywhere at all, especially for SMEs, which this project really was targeting, the small, medium-sized organizations, but it's still applicable for large. But we don't always look at these things until there's really, a dedicated role for it, or maybe some external pressure. And so, but of course, we know that these three domains deeply influence each other. When employee, we know well-being drives engagement, innovation, psychological health and safety, and retention, which of course supports performance outcomes. environmental sustainability practices, influence everything from employee pride to cost efficiency to long-term risk management. Organizational performance then creates conditions and resources needed to invest back into the people and sustainable operations. And so, although these areas are often disconnected, I think there's a big missed opportunity here about looking about the exponential impact we can have when we integrate these three different areas together. And so, really, we really want to think about how we can reduce these silos and really make sure that we have strategies that can support them and so that we can fully leverage that combined benefit. And so, yeah, and so there's so many examples of where this can fall in. But again, we just really want to focus in on having integrated strategies to reduce confusion, create synergy, where we know that when people feel well and supported, that they're going to innovate more. When sustainability is embedded, it's going to enhance our brand and reputation and operational efficiencies and reduce costs, a lot of costs. And then when performance is measured holistically, leaders can just make better decisions in all of these different areas. And I think this is really what this is particularly significant for the small, medium-sized enterprises, which make up 90% of the workforce in Canada and often lack the resources. And so that was kind of what this project aimed to do is to give a resource back, especially to SMEs. And again, it still works for and is applicable for large organizations as well, but so that they have something that can integrate these areas as well, that can support them, because we know that small organizations often lack, the dedicated human resource teams or sustainability leads or sophisticated data systems. And then oftentimes that just means there's ad hoc efforts and rather than those coordinated strategies. And so we just want to make sure that we have evidence-based tools to help support everyone measure these three integrated areas. And then that aligns with our vision at Wellness Works Canada, which is really around strengthening our Canadian economy and health of the population and planet. And that makes can make a profound impact when we all do this together. So I am going to hand it over to Rotimi to talk a little bit more about the purpose of the study and yeah, a little bit more. Rotimi.
Thank you for the introduction, Victoria. Um, yeah, basically, we're looking at this study through two lenses. The first is that we try to ensure that the ultimate users of the tool were to create, are able to use it and have a firm understanding of the why behind the what. So just a way to be able to set the priority right. As it has been mentioned that most organizations, particularly the SMEs, they've been doing things that are related into, for example, the environmental sustainability, but they do not possess the right strategic framework, to put everything together so that we can see how they mesh together. So the first part is for us to dig and see how there is connection between the three variables. The first one being environmental, the first one being workers' well-being, the second is environmental sustainability, and the last one is the organizational performance. So we want to see how does this connect with what seems to be most important to businesses, which is the bottom line. And the second one is to take a look at the evaluation mechanism, that is the tool itself, that would be easy to be used, and then the outcome will be useful for decision making. Now, for the first study, that is where we have the literature review. And the purpose of that informed the methodology that we adopted, which is integrated literature review. We did review 20 studies, and that is over 2012 to 2024, and across different geographic locations. We have Germany, we have India, we have Canada, we have Great Britain, we have United States. It's to bring them together and across different industries. So we try to see the theoretical framework background on which we have these three variables. And one of the things we see from that is it brought us to see how do we answer the research questions. And quickly, I will just go through the four research questions that we have. So the first one is, to what extent does workers' well-being influence key indicators of organizational performance, such as productivity, profitability, and employee retention, which is very key, particularly for small and medium businesses. Statistics has it that it costs around 11,000, at least in my industry, which is logistic. It costs around 11,000 to replace, I mean, the cost of any hourly employee that you hire and leave in the first 30 days is $11,000. And that is enormous. And because that is not measured, we do not know how it ultimately affects I mean, the businesses or the bottom line. The second, and what is the relationship between the adoption of environmental sustainability practices, e.g., waste reduction, energy efficiency, and organizational performance metric like cost saving and market competitiveness? The third one is that how do improvements in workers' well-being support the implementation and effectiveness of environmental sustainability practices within organizations? And the last one is that how does the type of industry, e.g., manufacturing or technology, moderate the impact of workers' well-being and environmental sustainability on organization performance? So we want to take a look at that and want to try to dig back and see how these studies have been able to answer these questions. And we came across four distinct theoretical framework or background. The first one is the job demand resources, which is the same thing as JDR model by Baker and Demiroche. And what that says is that there should be a direct relationship between the job demand, that's the pressure of the job, and the resources that is provided for the employee. And the second one is that's the second theoretical framework is the triple bottom line. And that has to say the connection between place, people, and planet, the profit. So then the third one has to do with motivation, which is social identity theory, where employees just see their place of work or the way they are being treated at work as a part of their social needs and what makes them to be motivated to want to work. And the last one speaks to ambition, which is self-determination theory. And that has to do with the ambition that has the link with between the contribution of an employee and the organizational goal. That still speaks to relevance. Now, this brings us to a conceptual framework where we look at the three distinct variables, the core variables, one being environmental sustainability, ES, workers' well-being, WW, and organizational performance. And we have there's an intersection between them, which has to do with organizational type. Under the environmental sustainability, we have the resource efficiency, carbon footprint, workplace initiatives, like different kind of initiative that has to do with environmental sustainability. And under workers' well-being, we have the physical and mental health, job satisfaction, and social and financial well-being. And under organizational performance, we look at customer experience, operational efficiency, and financial performance. So that said, that takes us to the literature review. Like I said, for this part of the study, the methodology that we adopted was integrated literature review. We selected the studies that were reviewed based on one relevance, language, and timeline. So we look at the kind of publication under which they were published and under the journals where they were published and how relevant they were. So to look at the interplay between the workers' well-being, environmental sustainability, and organizational performance. And what this tells us is that the experience we have originally is all these are being done without knowing sometimes. And because they were done that way, they were done in silos, meaning that does not help organizations to be able to recognize the need how to leverage the multiplier effect if they were done in a way that they complement one another. So that said, we see that the environmental sustainability initiatives are sometimes they are fueled by societal demands, particularly for ecological accountability. And today that is putting pressure on corporate decisions and because it has to be done, particularly for organizations that need to raise capital as something like initial public offer. So one of the considerations for providers of capitals like banks, other investors, is your position as regards to environmental sustainability. Other thing is we notice is that the business strive to balance the economic success, which is the main reason for business, because the businesses that we studied, they are for profit. In most cases, we have not for profit as well. And so that's to strive to balance the economic success with social and environmental sustainability. So under that, under the study, under the literature review, we have about 7 themes. So these themes are workers' well-being and organizational performance, psychological health and safety, wellness program versus the culture of well-being, system approach and culture shift, environmental sustainability and employee engagement, and integrated well-being and sustainability for sustainable organization. And we saw the practical implications. So the first thing is that why workers' well-being? And we want to see how that is linked with the bottom line. That the organization we just wanted to know how this is linked with the bottom line, because that is the only language businesses understands. So the linkage is such that the increase that's workers' well-being, when workers considered that their well-being are prioritized by the employers, that increases their productivity, satisfaction, and retention. It mitigates all the factors like the high environmental management. And this is particularly when we look at the JDR, when employee realized that they are being valued, that the organization is making decisions that guarantees their well-being, then it helps them to focus their mind on what is important for them to do, which is the job. And that will increase because that will have taken out fear, that will have taken out anxiety about the security of their job. And they know that they are important in the scheme of things. So that increases productivity, it increases satisfaction, and it improves the chances of retaining such employees. The number two thing is the sustainability and performance. This and there's the program for sustainability in a systematic form, not just like walking for wellness or things like that. It helps employee to be innovative. Then every employee would like to be part of an organization that has a very good reputation for respect for environment. So that helps them to want to be part of that system, which brings about reputation. And when they see that there's behavior for environmental sustainability governance, and that is just not something that is just word of mouth. They see that this is intentional and this is really done. So it helps employee to be proud to become part of the organization. Another thing we discovered was the mutual reinforcement. We saw that sustainability enhances well-being. When organization prioritizes sustainability, it enhances well-being. That is the morale through identification, wanting to be part of an organization that is respected, and it does also drives green engagement. For example, in logistic industry, one of the things that is considered, one of the main consideration is the asset that is used for most of the business, with are trucks. And for you to be able to be a respected an organization in the industry, it means that you have a truck or you are using fleet of trucks that is well managed and is not polluting the environment, that is not leaving footprint. So then employee in such organization will want to be an organization that is proud of their footprint. Then the fourth one is the industry influence, which gives stronger effect in resource intense industries. So when we have organization that prioritizes environmental sustainability, that they have influence in the industry. So one of the few limitation we saw in the study was where few studies quantify long-term effect and compare industry rigorously. We saw cultural and sectoral differences, e.g., for example, what we see in gig economy and not-for-profit. And we see also that something like suggested context dependency, which calls for more studies and more studies in the future. So in conclusion, we saw that the analysis of 20 studies spanning different industries and global context reveals a compelling evidence of interconnectedness, dynamic between workers' well-being, environmental sustainability, and organizational performance, which means that high level of workers' well-being nurtured through elements such as flexible arrangement, mental health support, job autonomy, consistently emerge as a catalyst for enhanced productivity, innovation, and employee retention. And this affirms the hypothesis that such well-being directly improves organizational performance. Also, a robust environmental sustainability practice improves efficiency, reputation, and resilience. And this is something that brings us to the why behind the what. Like for organizational business organization whose priority is to be able to be competitive financial wise, it is important to understand that dealing with these variables in isolation or in silos negate the opportunity for us to be able to bring them together and leverage the way they are interconnected. So when we have employees who feels connected with their organization in terms of their care for their well-being, who feels connected with their organization in terms of their reputation in managing their relationship with the environment, who feels connected with the environment, that makes them to stay. I'm making them to state it's a lot of savings that impacts the cost of an organization. And in fact, in some instances, that could help such employees to be a kind of referrer to their friends to even want to join such organizations. So that will lead us to the second part of the study, which is the collection of data and the data analysis. And the intention for that is for us to actually see what the market is telling us about these three variables. And that will be the fourth part. So the study, the methodology for this is going to be a combination of quantitative and qualitative. And so I will hand over to my colleague, Danny.
Thank you so much, Rotimi, for your introduction. Um, Hi, everyone. My name is Danny. It's a great honor to be here to share the key findings from our survey that ultimately led to our design of our tools. So before, I will have a quick overview of the survey background to all of you. So first of all, we collect 110 valid responses from Canadian employers. The survey ran from June 1st to July 11 this year, and we use a mixed method questionnaire that combine 5-point Likert scale and also a lot of open-ended questions. We also asked about how organizations currently perceive and measure these interconnection domains, including perceived importance, current measurement practices, barriers, and the type of metrics they want going forward. And yeah, we'll have a little bit of overview of our survey findings. So if you look at the top left chart, figure 1, which is average importance rating, we ask questions about like how they perceive this across these three domains. So figure 1 show organizational performance receive an average importance rating 4.46 in the middle, and worker well-being was close behind 4.15. However, we can see the environmental sustainability ranked the lowest perceived importance, and also environmental sustainability received the poorest data collection rates as well, and have the lowest measurement quality compared to two other domains, which shows like both worker well-being and organizational performance score higher and appear more established at the moment. And if we look at the figure 2, which is on the lower bottom, this chart shows the measurement maturity varies by company size. So the survey shows a majority of small companies are not measuring right now, but some of them express an intention to plan to start, which we can look at the red color. So it shows tools exist but are fragmented. Measurement practices is inconsistent, and many organizations call for the need for effective practices such as visualization, year-to-year comparability, and cross-domain integration. And if we look at the data collection by business measure, we can see that it also varies by company size. Oh, sorry, it's figure 3 on the left corner. So this figure shows that company faces different barriers, but they all share similar measurement issues. The common barriers include no clear standards, limited internal awareness, and not clear metrics, and also shows leadership support gaps and data collection difficulties. So the implication here is to build a unified measurement culture applied across all business area. So to get there, implement strategies to clarify metrics, accelerate feedback loops, and most importantly, to secure leadership support. And if we look at the charts here, we ask about their expectation for future tools. So companies want tangible and quantifiable metrics like psychological safety, customer experience, and carbon footprint align with organizational priorities. Also, they want clear definitions and suggested measurement methods. And also, we coded open-ended responses against the Wellness World Canada Wellbeing Index. Interestingly, when we analyzed and coded the open-ended questions, the answer against the index, we found a high degree of similarity. So we have a high frequency keywords were harmony, safety, engagement, and inspiration, which is high aligned with our lyric view as well. So these priorities are perfectly aligned with the specific desire metrics we just discussed. So therefore, these all the service findings combined with our lyric view point to our conclusion that there is a strategic market gap and a clear opportunity for integrated solutions. So the pain points and the demand points all indicate that employers are ready for comprehensive tools. So next, Victoria will show our tools.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jenny, for the overview of that. Yeah, lots of great findings, lots of work went into all of this, of course. And I think what I want to say about the tool is that it is really more about the process in terms of being able to collect the correct data, fill in those gaps, and continually improve. Just like when we think about the psychological health and safety standard, it's like the plan, do, check, act. But the evaluation, but doing it, but was starting with evaluation and understanding where you are. And so we have three steps that we are looking at here, which one is, and I have a question in the chat here. Oh, thanks. Just a comment that organizations want better reporting, but often they lack the data to do so. Yeah, since there's lots of data sets which aren't very well linked, and so that's the barrier. Yeah, that will need to be addressed. Yeah, how do we link these the lack of linkage between these data sets for sure. So we start with, so it's three steps. The first one is looking at the readiness assessment to really evaluate your current state and your organization's readiness to make a shift and leadership's commitment to making the shift within all three domains. And we want to make sure that we have to kind of meet people where they're at. So sometimes, the person who's going into this and wanting to lead this work and lead this data collection and everything has to kind of meet the leadership where they are at, and this can help with that and to understand what is your readiness, etc. I'm going to share the screen actually with you to show you what it looks like. Then the second step is looking at your current state and what are your priorities. So what are you measuring? What are you not measuring? What do you need to measure? And what are you doing to get the data, the measurements and the results that you want to see to make that impact? And then the third one is really where looking more at measuring your progress and looking at the outcomes of your initiatives and the interconnection between them all and looking at that financial impact and performance outcome that lends to each of these. So this is the tool. And I will be sharing with you afterwards the link to it so that you can have a look at it. But basically it's online. You have to go into here. There's a background. There's also a really great detailed instruction manual that Danny worked really hard at that you can use. And then we also tried to make it user-friendly and intuitive. So this is the user guide that you can also access. But when you go in here, of course, we've got our theoretical or conceptual framework to just demonstrate the linkages between sustainability, performance, and well-being. But again, it's really about the process here. And so when you go in here, there's a lot of different pop-ups that will show up that will allow you to kind of understand and see what it is that you're doing. So again, this initial phase will help you diagnose your readiness to implement changes and to lay a solid foundation of subsequent assessment. Then we're looking at the detailed self-assessment of the practices and the metrics and understanding what you need to measure or what you aren't measuring. And then the final stage of really documenting documenting initiatives, targets, and tracking the impact that you're making across three domains. Now, what's an important thing to note is that when you're starting your journey here, it's important to think about where you are in this state. So, if you're quite mature and you have been investing time and effort and collecting some data in all of these three different areas, but maybe they're separate, you may be able to go through these all fairly quickly. But if you are beginning your journey, it is best to really slow it down and set really realistic, attainable goals. So looking at doing the readiness assessment here, then making changes, and then going to the step two only once you've completed the first one where you've enhanced, which aligns actually with our 5-step guide of really thinking of assessing the current state and then inspiring stakeholders to get involved with the work so that everyone is doing this together in an integrated fashion versus one person kind of trying to lead it. You really want to have that shared investment by your stakeholders to do this work and make this impact and make sure that you're not the only one who's doing it, because if you're the only one who's doing it and say you move on, then what, right? You want it to be embedded within the organization, and in terms of making culture long-term bigger cultural shifts. So the first step here with the readiness assessment, when you first go in, you do have to create an account. That way you can save your data as you go along, and it will automatically continue to save, and you can come back here and return to it and to get your information when you want. What's also exciting is that you can also download your results in a PDF or an Excel format to understand where you're at, and it really helps you pinpoint some of your priority areas, and you get a heat map and all those other kinds of things. So basically, the readiness assessment matrix really looks at, is there any resistance or barriers that may get in the way? What is the desire of stakeholders to participate and support the change across these areas? And what is your ability and capacity to do that? And then the reinforcement, what are the mechanisms and practices that will ensure these changes are adopted and sustained over the long term, really making sure it's sustainable. So as you go in through here, once you've created an account, the dates change. Well, the first date that you first go into it, as you can see, I went in here in November. We'll show that, and then and then you can update it if you want to. And then your name obviously will be there. And it's continually saving, as you can see, which is always nice. And so we have the areas of the change, and really what we're looking at is across these three areas, and you'll see the definitions for what we're looking at for well-being. It's really the extent to which quality jobs characterized by fair wages, benefits, job security, and safe, supportive working conditions, materially and psychologically support employees' health satisfaction and overall quality of life. So we align this with the OECD's job quality definition. Then again, the environmental well-being, organizational performance. And what we're really looking at is you can start to put, do we have desire to make a shift and change in this? Or is there resistance, maybe environmental sustainability? There's not as much support for it because it's something you haven't done yet. That is here. I'll send you the link to it if you're looking for it. It's actually forms. Just noting the question in the Q&A here. The website address is wellnessworkscanada.ca/form. I'll send it shortly. So yes, you're going through there. Through each area. And then basically we want to see this integrated and ready to be embedded and aligned with organizational's mission and strategic plan, right? If it's, again, just an appendix and something that's small that maybe one person is working on and not aligned with our overarching performance goals, it's not going to be sustainable. So we want to look at how can we integrate it and align it with that. And then we also want to look at, do people understand and understand the benefits of each? And so again, some of it is like Rotimi was mentioning before. We need to look at the why this is of importance and why this is of value. So if there isn't, so we have a section here to say if we do have a lot of resistance and maybe it's not a priority, what would it take to make it a priority? What are you going to do to make it a priority? And then who's the person who's going to do that? And so then as you go through, you will be able to start to then create a plan to shift the readiness, which is really key. Moving forwards without the readiness, you're going to have a lot of barriers. And so you want to tackle this first. That's not not to say you can't do small things and have small wins in the meantime, but you want to look at that as well. So again, as you go through, it really looks at the important things that we saw that are important to organizations from the survey and the lit review of looking at leadership, commitment, culture, etc. As you go through here, you'll see that a pop-up shows up to give you an example of what it is. So for leadership commitment, we want to have not just them saying, yes, it's important, but actions, accountability from leaders to support these areas. And then who are leadership and etc. It describes that. So then basically you would go through for all of these areas that are really important, and you can save as you go. You don't have to go in here once and then feel you have to do it all at once. You can exit and come back and take as much time as you need to do it. You can also collaborate with other people if you want to share your username and password with someone else because these areas are siloed and you need to collect data from different areas. Then you can look at that. So then, once you've completed your readiness assessment, again, what we encourage people to do is reflect on the patterns across the 4 areas and look at, what are the quick wins? Where is there a high level of desire and ability? What are the barriers we need to address, and how are we going to do that? How can we look at the sustainable change through reinforcement to see if it'll be long term? And then thinking about the action planning and what it would take. And so building that out. And so you're able to download the results in an Excel when you get to when you navigate to step 3, so that you can start to create a plan. And I recommend only picking like 2 to 3 things at a time to work on, so that it's not overwhelming, and that you can go through it. And you can also decide if what, this is not applicable to us. You can just put NA. If this isn't a priority for you, it's totally customizable to where you're at and where you need to go. So then step 2 is I say a lot of fun for nerdy people who like analytics and stuff. But what's nice about this one is that you get a heat map that really prioritizes where you're at. So here you want to look at, this is where we are looking at our current practices and looking at gaps and strengths and opportunities. So here we're looking at well-being. So again, we're looking at the definition here, and then are we measuring it? Yes, no, or not applicable. Maybe it's not something that's a really priority for your organization. You can put non-applicable to customize it to your organization's priorities at that particular time. We want you to invest in that, but if it's not applicable, that's okay. And then how are you measuring it, right? And then you give yourself a rating of, is this a priority? In terms of where you're at. It's a self-assessment saying, yes, yeah, we've got strong physical well-being culture. We have supported by continuous improvement, or maybe, we have no actions yet, but, or we have just a couple of things. So you rate yourself there in terms of what you're doing, and then your priority. Is this a high priority or low priority? And if it's a high priority, you're probably going to make a plan and define what you're going to measure next. And again, we recommend just trying to pick 1 or 2 things, maybe one item for each item, like under one on well-being, one under sustainability, and one under performance. And then what's neat about this is you can view your heat map. So I went and did it earlier, and based on how the results that I went through, I can see that there's 3 critical gaps of areas that I ranked as high priority, but not, we're not doing much in that area. We need to do it. And so when you scroll down, you can see the critical gaps that I found was that we're not really looking at the financial impact of worker well-being and quantifying that data. And so, the second one is carbon footprint, not really measuring that. It's something important, want to measure, but we're not doing it yet. And so that's something we want to do. And this works for any industry, even us, a nonprofit working mostly virtually, it's still applicable. So looking at those types of things. And then the long-term sustainability, of course, we're measuring it, yes, but we're not really doing enough for it. And so that's what's really nice about it is it just, okay, it already selects those 3 priorities for you. And then it looks at the improvement areas as well. And then also the strengths that to continue to build on. And so you can kind of get to that. And then you move on. So then you kind of want to spend time on that, and you might take a year to complete step 2 because you just want to go with baby steps. If you're a small organization and really nimble, you might be able to do it in a couple of months, but really try to follow the process and trust the process versus kind of going to the end without the buy-in and support from other stakeholders. And it'll really get you going further, right? The old adage that, you can go quickly alone or you can go far together, kind of holds true in this scenario. And so the third step here is really, again, looking at assessing impact and looking at your actual numbers. And so this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. I mean, it does sooner, but it really is a process. And so again, we've got examples here for you at each step. So if you're looking at well-being, an example might be a self-rated, might be a survey. It could be health risks assessment. It could be all kinds of things. Job satisfaction, again, it could be employee engagement surveys. A lot of them will be kind of surveys, but when we're looking at the financial impact, which is one of the critical pieces, it's usually around the reduced cost of lost time for the financial piece, and then the qualitative data would be the engagement of people as well. And so you have the opportunity here to say, hey, we've got data here. So you could type it in. Yeah, I've got a survey. And then what are the things that we were doing to support this? We support active walking meetings, for example. What is the data that we need to collect to see if that's making an impact? Maybe we need a better survey that looks at the connection between the support for their well-being to their ability to do their job. And then you want to maybe set some targets. Well, we want to improve the survey scores from year 1 to 2, or the participation rates in programs that we're offering, those kinds of things. And then we want to do it by 2020, December 2026, for example. And then, what are we going to use and what's the impact of that? So again, that would be looking at the impact that the well-being is having on their engagement, on their performance, or just their actual well-being. And so again, it may look like a lot, but again, you can stop and save whenever you want, and really, again, strategizing and just looking at well-being, one item for well-being, one item for sustainability, one item for performance to start, maybe a good way to go. If you want to go further, then you can for sure as well. And then you can continue to save as you go. There's lots of good comments here around how to make the strategic connections. Really start small is a good way to go, right? Set the bar low so you're able to continue to do this work and always continue to save. And then what's fun here is that I can save this and it saves it right away. And then you can generate a report and it opens up right away. And you've got a report for your organization. So your organization name would show up. Then, and you can go to this step anytime, whether you're at step 1, 2, or 3. And then look at your results from each of the areas. And so the heat map I find is one of those really helpful ones. So you get the PDF here, your company profile, your current state, and then you can see your heat map of what were the gaps and look at the summary statistics and look at, okay, these are the things that we want to work on. These are the gaps that we have, and what we want to continue to work on. And then, of course, then there's this assessment as well. What's also nice is that you can also generate an Excel report so that you can also, and that's what we heard from the survey responses and follow-up interviews that we did with people, is that being able to manipulate the data on their own in Excel is also helpful. So you can also generate an Excel and it downloads instantly for you as well. And then you can that way create action plans in there versus doing it online. So you can do it in any way that you want to do. So so I'm seeing some questions coming into the chat here. So one is, how do you assess leadership commitment? So currently, and I should also mention that on our website, we actually have a lot of other additional resources that you can use to do this work. And so currently, the leadership assessment is just self-perceived of our leaders doing this, but we also have a survey tool that you can use to have a group of leadership complete so that you can understand, do they understand the benefits? Do they see it as a priority? All those kinds of things. And that will help look at your leadership commitment. Yeah. And we can follow up with additional links to everybody who is here today and also anyone who registered so that you can gain access to these pieces. There are a lot of complementary tools. We are having a meeting with our advisory group in February to look at other additional accompanying tools that can help to support you within this journey, because we have the process here, which is good, but there may be gaps or things that you're not sure how to act on, right? Or what you could do to support these things, or what are those quick wins that are going to support well-being or sustainability. And so, yeah, we're here to help you with that. Of course, if you need help and support to be guided through the process, we're here to help with that as well. So I will throw the link into the chat so that you can see it for yourself. So it's right now it's just form. So this is like a beta tool, and what we are really looking at is encouraging people to test it and provide feedback. And so the call to action that we have is that if you are interested in helping to provide feedback on your experience and journey testing the tool, we would love to hear from you. And so yeah, and so you basically can just email us. You can email info@wellnessworkscanada.ca if you are interested in helping or into giving some of that feedback. So I want to open it up. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I want to open it up for any questions that anyone has to on the tool itself, or on any other parts of the research program. Any questions from anyone? So thanks for the comments here. Yeah, yeah, it could definitely be used for quarterly check-ins with the team and annual check-ins, especially the readiness piece, I think, right? It would be a great one. And also, I think if there's organizations who have committees, I mean, I always think that it's always great for organizations to have a well-being and performance committee that is dedicated to this work, that has a cross representation of people who are representing the siloed areas, that can come together to talk about how these things are integrated and to complete the tool, to use the tool and complete it together. Because so in SMEs, the hope is that one person might be able to go in and have all the information, but sometimes they don't. I've had small organizations do self-assessments through us and engagement surveys and stuff, and like the GM of an organization of 10 doesn't really know what the benefit, if they have benefit plan or what it looks like, right? Or they know they have it, but they don't know if they have an EAP or those kinds of things. So there may be just information missing, and you need to bring people together to do it. And so that's a great way to do that for sure, is having the committee come, having those people from different areas come together to complete it together, or sharing it, right? One person does it, sends it off to someone else, says, hey, fill the gaps, and it'll continually save and you can update as you go along. Yeah. And then thank you for other comments um, around, yeah, it's one that's badly needed to fully assess the connection between health, well-being, and organizational performance. Thank you so much, Ellen. Yeah. Awesome. So we're just about at our time here. Oh, I'm seeing lots of questions otherwise coming up here on the chat. Any recommendations on how to better address variables outside of the organization? Yeah, retention is a huge concern because in the north, because of lack of amenities and these kinds of things. Yeah, 100%. In our process, I think it's really important to look at looking at the external factors and not just the internal factors, 100% of what's impacting that. And so, in terms of the tool itself, of how we're looking at that, I think that would be, I'm just trying to think of where that is. So in the current state, I think that would be kind of in the readiness, is what do we need to get there? Maybe there's barriers that we need to address to overcome those things. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Melanie. It's an important piece. And in fact, if you download our the five-step guide that's online, it talks about that too, in terms of how do you assess the internal and external environmental factors that are impacting whatever it is, the well-being, sustainability, performance. And then another question is, what does the tool cost? It's free. It's free, but if you do want to have support with it, there's a fee for obviously just the time and administration of any consulting work that is required to help you through that. I think what also is really good is as being able to use it and develop a bit of a really short impact framework, which can be helpful. And we have a template on our website as well, which basically looks at um, what are we doing currently? Celebrate the things you're doing, and you can get the results from that. What are our short, medium, long-term goals, and what are the impact that those are going to have in a one pager that kind of breaks it all down. Because again, when you're looking at the tool, there's lots of different pieces in here, but you have to start small and meet people where they're at, and yeah, just make slow incremental changes. And again, it's a process. It's not a one and done thing. You want to continue to work on that. So I want to thank everyone for being here. We are at the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much for Teamy and everyone else who gave feedback on this and made it available for everyone. I'm so excited that it finally came into fruition. It took some time, but we got there. And also, I just wanted to make a quick announcement is that we have our next accreditation cohort, which kind of helps give you the tools and the competencies and skills to be able to do this work and lead this work and integrate these areas. The next cohort starts in January, so you can become a certified workplace well-being and performance practitioner, and so we'll share more information about that. We've updated it. We also have a new leader program that's available as well. So. Yeah, and if we miss any questions, because I see more coming in, feel free to reach out to any of us afterwards. So thank you everyone so much. I hope everybody stays warm, and has a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.